One of my favorite things about games like Halo 3 or Halo Reach was that, in a way, it built upon all of the new features and additions that had come in previous titles, adding a lot of new content while trying to limit how much content gets taken out of the game. Sure, Halo 3 didn't have the Spectre and Halo Reach didn't have those flares everyone loved so much, but across every Halo game, there's always been sacrifices that have been made as far as which features or sandbox items will have to be cut in favor of making room for new things in the newest title. Sometimes these things go away for a little while and then come back in a later game, like the BR for example, but then there's some things that go away and never make their way back. And we made a list. Ready, set, go! The Brute Mauler hasn't appeared since Halo 3. The Spectre after Halo 2, it was really cool, it had a boost. Halo 3 replaced it with a Prowler, still a 4-seated vehicle without boost, which we would never see again after Halo 3. People seem to really like Armor Lock in Halo Reach because everyone seemed to use it. And Halo 3 had the Bubble Shield, Halo Reach had the Drop Shield, and Halo 4 didn't have anything, and we would never see these Bubble Boys again. Well, we did have this in Infinite. Holograms were cut upon Halo 5's release. Deployable covers were something that were really cool in Halo 3, you like jump on them and stuff. We also had trip mines in Halo 3, and the most upsetting of them all by far is the original Mongoose horn, which sounded like this and was in every Halo game.
Oh man, stop.
Until Halo Infinite, where they changed it to this. In Halo Reach, they also introduced an armor ability specifically similar to that of what elites used in the form of evade, but you could use them as Spartans, and that was really cool too. One of the coolest things that Halo 3 had about it was the fact that players 2, 3, and 4 would be different elite characters. The Arbiter and then these two other guys who actually did have in-game, in-lore universe names. Now, never again did a Halo game feature special, unique playable characters for players 2, 3, and 4 that tie into the universe, with the exception of Halo 5, which they did for both factions you play as, but never did they let you do it with playable elite. And matter of fact, Halo 3 would mark the final time anybody would be able to play as an elite in a Halo campaign. One thing you would think that Halo would continue to do, especially with the elites teaming up with humanity, would be to continue this trope. And with the Arbiter being a main playable character in Halo 2, I definitely assumed that we would play as him again one day, not to still wait years and years later to still not even have a playable elite in a Halo game, especially on the campaign side of things. Now, Halo Reach did do things a little bit differently than all the previous Halo games. In its campaign and co-op, you had your customizable character who was a Noble 6, and then players 2, 3, and 4 were also just their customized Spartans. So you don't really think about it too much, but this was the final time you would ever get to actually play as your own customized Spartan in a Halo campaign. With Halo 4, you could still play as your customized Spartan in Spartan Ops, but that's not really campaign, that's more of a firefight mode. And in campaign, you play as Master Chief as player 1, and players 2, 3, and 4 are just identical Master Chiefs. I think it would have been really cool if you got to play as your Halo 4 Spartan through the other things so you can identify who's who a little bit easier, but instead it's just 4 Master Chiefs running through. Halo 5 did the whole squad thing, which is cool because everyone has unique identities, but we weren't able to play as our own Spartans. And in Halo Infinite, they reverted back to doing the 4 identical looking Master Chiefs instead of letting you use your in-game multiplayer Spartan. So Reach gets to be kind of a little special game that let you do something different. Halo 2 was the Halo game that introduced dual wielding to Halo forever, except not really forever. It only came back for Halo 3 and then was removed for Halo Reach. And then when 343 took over, Halo 4 would also not have dual wielding. When they did the Halo 2 anniversary multiplayer, they did briefly reintroduce dual wielding for that mode, which was based off of Halo 2, but with Halo 5 Guardians and Halo Infinite, dual wielding has yet to return. Now, we talked about playable elites in the campaign, but also playable elites in the multiplayer should be worth noting, as well as after being introduced in Halo 2, existing through Halo 3, and in Halo Reach, still existing but being changed to be kind of this stronger class of playable character that you could use in custom games or different multiplayer modes. The playable elites were completely taken out from Halo 4, 5, and Infinite. though they did briefly appear in Halo 2 Anniversary's multiplayer. I do have to note that. But yeah, Halo 5 and Infinite, definitely no playable elites there. It's a shame a lot of people really did love playing as the elites. It was a cool thing to have, especially because in Halo Reach, they introduced a really cool mode called Invasion, which is a game mode where you play as Spartans against elites, or you play as the elites against the Spartans. And there was 2 maps built with Invasion in mind, and it was really cool to get to push up and go through these different waves of either attack or defense, and it was a cool game mode. There was some balancing issues that probably could have been tweaked over time, but nonetheless, a lot of people really liked this mode and would have loved to see even more Invasion in the future. Though when Halo 4 came out, because there wasn't playable elites, we never got to see an Invasion mode make a return. Similarly, we would never see Invasion make a return again because in Halo 2 Anniversary, the elites were reverted back to being identical to Spartans as far as mechanics and gameplay went. They weren't like bigger and stronger like they were in Reach. So Halo 2A wasn't eligible to have Invasion return, and then Halo 5 and Halo Infinite also didn't have playable elites, so Invasion never made a return there either. Okay, let's just put an F in the chat for the plasma rifle. This gun was an iconic weapon in Halo. Through every single Halo game, it had appeared. It was in Halo CE, one of the few guns in that game because the sandbox was so much smaller back then. It continued to live on in Halo 2. Matter of fact, they added a new version of the plasma rifle just for brutes. Halo 3 had the plasma rifle return once again. And by Halo Reach, I think Bungie wanted to kind of sidestep or sunset the plasma rifle a bit in favor of the new plasma repeater. But Bungie, knowing the legacy of Halo and knowing that the plasma rifle had been in every game, still kept the gun in the game. It was used limitedly in the campaign. Occasionally you'd see it in multiplayer, but it was in the sandbox. You could use it in Forge and you could put it down in custom games, and it was fully there in the game. Though when Halo 4 came out, the plasma rifle was removed from the game. Instead, they introduced the storm rifle, which was fine, but it did remove one of the original weapons that had been in every Halo game up until that point. The weapon would return for Halo 2 Anniversary's multiplayer, but then it would be gone again when Halo 5 and Halo Infinite would release, making it one of the lost weapons of Halo that once was there at the very beginning. Okay, some of you are gonna think this next one's a meme, but it's not really a meme. But after Halo 4 released, we never got a full-on flood mode again. Now, you may remember Halo 4 released and it never had infection in the game, period. You did not have infection. They replaced infection with a game mode known as Flood. The problem with Flood was that these new Flood models, while it mostly followed the same infection game type, didn't have the ability to carry any weapons, which meant a ton of the original custom games that players used to play were no longer playable because all of a sudden the Flood were limited to just having their little sword arm thing. This made the Flood game type really, really unpopular amongst custom game lovers and forgers alike because it limited what players were able to play and do. And because of that, when Halo 2 Anniversary would release, Flood would not be included in the game. Instead, they went and put regular infection in the game, fixing the problems that Flood had. Now, there are things you can flip on and off appearance-wise to make the Spartans look like Flood, but the actual game type known as Flood is gone forever. It hasn't come back since. Halo Reach introduced jetpacks for players, and it was so cool. I remember how hyped I was to get to use a jetpack. There were so many cool custom games that used a jetpack. It was definitely super overpowered in Halo Reach's multiplayer, but hey, it was a little bit of a growing pain, but it was something cool in the sandbox nonetheless. Halo 4 did bring the jetpack in once again, though this time around they nerfed the jetpack. It's nowhere nearly as good as the jetpack was in Halo Reach, but I think the same problems with the jetpack still kind of persisted. Obviously, Halo 2A didn't include the jetpack, as the original Halo 2 didn't have a jetpack, though it technically could have worked because it was built on Halo 4's engine. And by Halo 5, they decided to completely remove the jetpack altogether, not even appearing in Forge mode or custom games. Instead, we got access to the thruster pack, which is not the same thing. Halo Infinite, once again, did not have a jetpack, even though it could be really fun, and instead we got the cool little grappling hook, which I will take because the grappling hook is a lot of fun, though rest in peace jetpacks. One thing that irritates us a little bit as Halo content creators, or one of the things that we really miss being Halo content creators, is campaigns having an active working theater mode. This was something that was done away with in the Halo 4 days, and it's really sad because we used to be able to set up some really awesome things for videos or thumbnails or slow-mo shots using the theater mode, and not having it in Halo 4 or Halo 5 or Halo Infinite for the campaign side of things is really disappointing. disappointing. Now, I know that apparently Halo 5 and Infinite don't have the best working theater mode. I haven't really played around with them too much when it comes to the multiplayer side of things, but we definitely do miss being able to load up into theater mode in campaign, getting to fly around, trying to see what areas we can access with theater mode instead, and just seeing how some really cool things can happen when you get to look at it from a completely different angle. Okay, after so many years playing Halo, you've definitely seen the Pelican before and thought to yourself, man, it'd be cool if I could fly this thing. We got to fly in it so much in Combat Evolved, it's very recognizable, and in Halo 2, it's there in a couple of different instances in a pretty cool way. Halo 3 had the Pelican as well. It just picks you up in the first level. So it was a really big deal when Halo Reach rolled out, and finally for the first time ever, through a matter of activating an Easter egg by flying to specific locations on New Alexandria, you were able to fly a Pelican for the first time ever. It was a really cool hidden secret, but it was really awesome to actually have in the game. Then comes Halo 4, made by 343, and they took it a step further and made an entire level dedicated to flying a Pelican. Finally, after so much time, we straight up just get to fly our own little Pelican, and the Pelican's pretty fun to fly. After that though, never again. They never gave us another Pelican flying level in any Halo game. Apparently in Halo Infinite, there probably was plans to let you fly a Pelican, and the Pelican was fully flyable, and there were glitches you could do after Infinite release that let you access the Pelican and fly the Pelican, which is what speedrunners did to save a ton of time. That's amazing. Then they cut out this glitch so you can't fly the Pelican anymore. That's disappointing. And then they restored some glitches, and I don't think the Pelican part got restored, but if I'm wrong about that, someone let me know in the chat. But I'm pretty sure if you have the most updated version of Halo Infinite, you cannot fly the Pelican anymore, but it was something that almost was officially supported in the game, but they ended up cutting it out. Okay, and then Luke had a couple more that he wanted to specifically talk about that just mean a lot to him.
Firefight has not returned since Halo Reach, and no, I'm not counting Halo 5 Warzone Firefight, even though that would be better than nothing, but I wish they would just put Firefight back in the game and maybe give us some more options like Forge Firefight, because that would have been the natural evolution, right? We had Halo 3 ODST, there was a pretty bare bones Firefight. Halo Reach gave you a bunch of custom options, and then a Forge Firefight would have been the next step, but that step was skipped because 303 took over. And now we're left with nothing. And actually, I would even like Warzone back. It is something that existed before, and it wasn't terrible. I just didn't think it was a replacement to Firefight, but they should also bring back Warzone in some form without the rec packs. Rec packs are something that are gone and are probably better gone forever. And that actually reminded me of another feature, because I was getting footage of Halo 3 ODST Firefight and I saw the Flood Firefight, right? So that means them putting Flood into ODST Firefight is the last time we've seen the Flood, which I mean was more recently, but it does show that they could bring back the Flood without putting it in the campaign, right? It could just be an enemy type in Forge, or like an AI in Forge that they could add to Infinite, or maybe a future Halo game like Halo 7 or whatever it's next. Bringing back the Flood doesn't have to be a lore thing, right? It could just be something in the sandbox. Like, there's other things they could bring back without it being canon. You know, they do their Fracture events all the time. So with non-canon experiences being part of Halo now, why not bring back the Flood in some form? It doesn't have to be a canon decision, right? The Gravemind can still be that or whatever, but you can still bring back the Flood in some form. Also, you remember back in the day when you could map veto, and there was always this kid yelling into the mic, veto, 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 and he would just like vote not to play a map or a game mode, which like they should bring that back. And often nowadays games don't bring it back because they're like, well, then these maps don't get as much play. Well, if you don't make bad maps that nobody wants to play, then maybe they wouldn't get vetoed. Something else that would be nice is like achievement-based unlocks for like armor, but like not just like a weekly challenge or something like that. I just mean like something that's actually hard, a lasso armor set or something like that. Just not something that someone does in a week, something that like only the most hardcore players can experience as like a little reward. And it would be a perfect way to promote the new armor core system if there was a certain armor core you could only get for like completing lasso or doing legendary under 3 hours or something like that. Even though I didn't do it back in the day, but when we did our Vidmaster achievement video, that was so much fun, and I didn't even get the armor, but just the journey itself was like amazing enough that this should return in some form. Also, player collision is kind of gone now, at least in Halo Infinite. I don't remember in Halo 5 how it was, but I don't think you can do grenade jumps or butterfly jumps or anything like that in Halo Infinite as is. And those were some amazing things for the older Halo games that would make them unique. And you know, you can't grenade jump in Call of Duty the same way you could in Halo, and that was just something that made Halo stand out, and it kind kind of is part of Halo's identity to me. Also, I think the craft hammer doesn't even push you anymore the same way it used to. Also, it would be nice to just pick your color. I was streaming yesterday, twitch.tv/RocketSloth, by the way. And for the first time in like 6 months, I played a game of Halo Infinite and I unlocked the color blue. Again, I think I already had a blue, but like, why am I unlocking the color blue? And then there's a bunch of minor things that I would like to see return, like scarabs. When was the last time we've seen scarabs or we fought scarabs? I think that was Halo 3, and then Halo Reach had them in the campaign. I don't think Halo 4 had any scarabs, neither did Halo 5 or Halo Infinite. Where are they? Where are the scarabs? And this is very niche, but actually there's something about Halo 2 Legendary that just felt extremely hard while also being extremely rewarding. And after Halo 2, no Halo game has felt this hard while rewarding at the same time. And I don't know how to recreate it, but Halo 3 Reach and Halo 4 Legendary comparatively are super easy. So maybe Halo 2 Legendary, like, you know, cranked up jackal snipers and stuff like that should make a return, because that would be fun. Because Legendary should be the hardest possible difficulty. It shouldn't be easy. And then we mentioned some weapons like the plasma rifle, but there's so many other weapons that are just gone and never been seen again, like the Brute Shot or the flamethrower. And this last one I want to talk about is a very minor one, like obnoxiously minor, but ranked being its own tab, right? Right now in Halo Infinite, ranked is just hidden away. Up until Halo 5, ranked was like its own tab you would just click on besides social. Just make ranked its own little tab. I mean, it's not the biggest thing, but like, you know, it would be nice. And I could make a really stupid joke about how also something that's never returned is player population to Halo Infinite, but that would be too easy and way below my level of comedic sense. Back to Elijah.
And then just to be extra careful to try not to skip anything too important, we decided to ask Twitter, because that couldn't have anything go wrong. And we got a lot of good feedback, surprisingly. A lot of people said the same things that I already have said in this video. But let's look at some of the ones that I completely didn't even think about at first. Duquesne brought up the idea of an official race game type that is basically drag and drop without scripting. That did make the whole forging process a whole lot easier back in the day. Yangi Young pointed out some of the cool weapon variations and vehicle variations that were introduced in Halo 5 Guardians, not returning in Halo Infinite. Lacheus brought up a feature I completely forgot existed, and then I had like this weird feeling like I just unlocked a secret memory that I forgot completely about. But the ability to choose the type of player you match with. This was a feature in the original Halo Reach game and maybe also Halo 3, but I remember vividly in Halo Reach where you could choose whether you wanted to play with like a rowdier group or a more laid back group, and that would actually apply slightly into the matchmaking system and try to pair you with players more similarly fit to what your playstyle and voice preference was. Matt brought up a great one with pre and post game lobbies along with a party up feature, which was really cool back in the day. This is how lifelong friendships were made, where you jump into a matchmaking game, you chat it up with some people, maybe trash talk a little bit, and then when your game ends, you're not immediately disconnected forever. You have the option to continue to play with that group. And a lot of the times you get a group of people smack talking and it was funny, and then everybody just pressures each other into partying up, because you're not going to be a wimp and not party up because you can't handle the trash talk. And then somewhere after hilariously trash talking each other for like 2 hours, you become best friends. I don't know if that's how it's supposed to work, but I'm pretty sure there's people out there who have lifelong friendships because of this feature. Wrecked Elk suggested the original menu style and loading screens. They gave the menus so much character back then. Definitely agree with that one. Mock brought up an interesting one with assassinations, which, yeah, they definitely are gone, and I kind of understand why they were removed for like the competitive multiplayer edge, but at the same time they looked so cool. I wish they would have still existed to an extent somewhere in the game, maybe in the bigger team battle social playlists. It is a little disappointing that's completely gone. Multi-team, that was so much fun back in the day, and I feel like ever since MCC, multi-team has just been completely abandoned unless you get to play a game of Rocket Race or something. Of course, a ton of people said split screen, which, you know, we already talked about that one. Simon pointed out the space battle on Halo Reach. Yeah, that was really cool, getting this little space battle. Nowadays, I'm not too fond of this level, but I feel like if they would have taken this idea and expanded on it, it would have been really cool. Apparently there was even a prototype recently built at 343 Industries during Infinite's development, but that got shot down, so they canceled it, at least according to Halopedia. Respect Genesis brought up proximity chat, something I also forgot about, but yeah, you could hear your teammates talking if you were close enough in proximity chat back in the day in game, and that was kind of cool too. A lot of these features would be really well suited to return in Halo Infinite or a future Halo title one day, and we just hope that these features don't completely get forgotten about. I'm sure there's a lot of other features that we didn't get a chance to talk about in this video, so if we missed any, let us know in the comments down below, or if you see one that you agree with in the comments, give it a upvote so we're more likely to see it when we read through our comments. Thanks so much for watching. Huge shout out to our patrons. They've just been so supportive recently. We can't thank you guys enough for all the support. If you guys want to become a patron, check out the link down below and maybe throw us a couple of dollars. That's it for today though. We'll see you next time with a new video.